good. Hey, let's get right to it. A lot of news last couple of days. Most recently, the revelations about allegations against the top Democrat on Judiciary, John Conyers. Should he resign because of those sexual harassment claims, or should he at least step down from that top role on, for your party on that key committee?
Well, it's agonizing times right now, but I think a very important shattering of some norms nationwide, and in particular in the Congress. The exploitation, the maltreatment of women employees by leadership in the offices, i.e. members of Congress, I think deserves the airing that it's getting. And more importantly, any sexual harassment, just the use of power to inflict demands and unseemly requests and others on women are wrong. And I really think on this issue that, as agonizing as it might be for all of us, that the ranking member needs to step down at the minimum, as Ms. Pelosi, as our leader Pelosi asked for that ethics investigation, and then the chips will fall from there. But at the minimum, I would agree that that is a necessary step. Dealing with employee issues is difficult. Settlements occur in Congress all the time. I can't think of any member that few members that have not gone through that. But when it borders and it broaches the issue of sexual harassment, and it is used as a means to try to keep that issue from being that, if it's serial in the sense that many of them are, then yeah, that is a serious issue that inevitably it could lead to more punitive issues. We've all have gone through that. It's very painful with employees and people that you work with to have to dispatch them or separate yourself from employees. Many times it's just a question of not being able to accommodate each other, the work environment, the sense that we need to be going in a different direction. And settlements many times are made for the benefit of both. But when the settlement is made as a means to try not to deal with an issue as deep and as ugly as we've seen in the recent past, then yeah, that becomes very serious.
A quick follow-up though, and you've made the distinction between settlements that are work-related other than sexual harassment. Are you saying that, and were you surprised at reports of how much money, taxpayer money, was going to settlements tied to sexual harassment claims? And should that be public, at least, those settlements? That is taxpayer money.
I think if the issue broaches what we're seeing now, that a settlement payment was issued specifically on the issue of sexual harassment, the exploitation issue, as a means to quiet that, then the request by many in this process of ours, I think that kind of information needs to at some point be public and noted. Other claims that occur and other settlements that occur to the benefit of both the employee and obviously to the employer, so that they can go on, those individuals can go on to continue to work in an environment that perhaps is more conducive to their capacities. That might be a different matter. But in this issue, when it is pointedly to try to keep the information from getting out, then at some point, I think those settlements need to be talked about.
Before we move on from this topic, I want to go back to your comments suggesting that this might be a sea change for Capitol Hill. I mean, in recent years, even as long as 30 years ago, there have been sexual harassment cases on Capitol Hill involving members and staff. Jim Bates 30 years ago, Bob Packwood 25 years ago. Both of them resigned from Congress as a result. And yet here we are 25, 30 years later, still talking about the same culture. Why do you think it'll change now?
But I think that we've passed the tipping point. Whether it is in the boardroom whether it is on the plant floor, whether it is in a shop, in a business, or in the halls of Congress and government, any government level. You know, it's the relationship of power and the attempt to exploit that power sexually and to demean, degrade, demand on a sexual connotation from employees. I think that sea change is not only needed, it's happening, and it's happened because I think you reached a tipping point. And it wasn't just Weinstein. I think, I think that the fact that that the courage that many women are showing across this nation to be able to deal directly with those issues that many times are felt, people are compelled to keep them to themselves, I think is a mark that we've reached a tipping point beyond which that there is no coming back, nor should there be any coming back.
Colin?